welcome to the Ident Review, the show where we have a good look and chat about the various television idents that we've come to know and love over the years. And for this instalment, following on from the Personality 2s last week, we now take a look at their successors, the Window on the World idents for BBC Two. After 6 years on television screens, BBC Two decided that the Personality 2s had done their job, and it was time for something fresh and new. Out with the bright yellow and the quirky numerals, in were beautiful landscapes and several attempts at embedding the iconic 2 within them. Now for today, like the Personality 2s, there are so many windows on the world that we could be here forever if we covered them all. So like last week, we're going to have a gander at some of my favourite variants from this set. And to kick things off, let's have a look at one of the launch set, Cappuccino.
Looking through to Tastes of the Caribbean with Planet Food at 11:30, you're watching BBC Two, with something new for the weekend.
A prime example of what kind of things this ident set succeeded at. So we see a coffee be seasoned into a 2 shape before we see the final product, which actually looks quite appealing. I'm not much of a coffee drinker, more tea, but if I was, this is the kind of pattern I would want sprinkled. I like as well that the drinker takes a spoon out of it. I don't know why, it just makes me chuckle a bit. But laughter aside, let's move on now to our next ident of the day, mirror.
Don't forget, tomorrow night, BBC Two's school season continues with the award-winning History Boys at 10 to midnight, James Corden and Richard Griffiths starring. We're all done now though, so from all of us here, good night.
This one is one of my favourites of the set. Again, like many of the set, it's wonderfully simple and the final image is something of the everyday, a wing mirror of some sort of vehicle. But it's the background landscape and the soundtrack that stands out to me. Despite moving at an incredibly fast pace, there seems to be an innate calmness to the whole ident. I feel quite relaxed and at ease watching this, and again it's a testament to the design and creative teams to create something so simple but yet so watchful time and time again. Next up, probably the window on the world that was shown and remembered the most, Seascape.
That's as far as we go for tonight here on BBC Two. We're back in the morning, but now more pages from Ceefax.
So beautifully tranquil. There's no sight more soothing, I think, than the sight of waves crashing against a rock face, with a lovely soundtrack to back it, of course. I mean, beyond that, there really isn't much anything else here. But again, this is the simplistic wonder of the windows on the world. Their designs are so simple, but they work supremely well when played out. I almost wish this 2 rock face actually existed somewhere. Now wouldn't that be a tourist spot to behold? Next up, we have a much more messier ident, shall we say. This is Restaurant.
There's a new wave of glamorous granny on the scene, and she's in her 30s, Britain's youngest in an hour. Now on BBC Two, they've got a pig of a job on their plate.
Now who doesn't love a good food fight? Again, there isn't that much to this one, just a load of food being thrown over a 2, but it's charming, it's quirky, and strangely still remains quite visually appealing to look at and view. Not much else to say on that one really, but it brings a smile to my face. But now next up we have a very questionably titled ident, The White Season.
Now, 40 years since Enoch Powell's controversial anti-immigration speech, are his words finding new resonance? As part of The White Season, BBC Two examines the impact and legacy of Rivers of Blood. The programme contains some strong language.
I'm in a bit of conflict with this one. I love the style and look of this ident, The swirling blacks and whites, and the whirling around the little details on the final two form are really quite stunning. But I just can't get over that it's called the White Season, especially given this continuity announcer in particular discussing the controversial acts of Enoch Powell. If anyone in the comments can provide me some clarity as to why it's been dubbed the White Season, that would be fantastic, because that completely passed me by. But moving on from questionable titles, we go for a more futuristic sci-fi spin on things. So here is Zoetrope. Honouring the past with a glimpse of the future. We see this futuristic city landscape with flying cars and all. It reminds me of the 1927 classic silent film Metropolis. But before we can see any more of the city, we zoom out to see the Zoetrope 2s whirling around. It's such a small detail, but I really like how this ident blends both past and future together really seamlessly. And in a way, a Zoetrope is the perfect tool to use as a window on the world, as that was exactly their original purpose when they were first debuted more than over 100 years ago. And to finish off with, like last week, I thought we would delve into the wonderful world of Christmas idents. In the later years of this set, some idents of the past were recycled, but let's first have a look at what represented BBC Two at Christmas between 2007 and 2010.
A thrilling match between Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan and Mark the Shark Selby. UK Championship snooker continues here on BBC Two in 40 minutes. First, comedy, and a man well used to wardrobe malfunctions.
Charming and delightful. Just what you need at Christmas. So the main focus of these ident variants seems to be this little sprite, demon or whatever he is, that's causing havoc in this papercraft world. The sprite itself, with all the little noises he makes, actually kind of reminds me of Disney's Stitch character. And how brilliant would that have been if they actually worked together with Disney to incorporate their characters into their idents? Maybe possibly for a Disney season at Christmas? Ah, the land of impossible dreams, eh? And now finally, let's go out with a bang with the BBC Two Christmas ident from 2011 and 2012.
From college dropout to Silicon Valley high flyer to global force, now on BBC Two and the BBC HD channel, the inspired business brain and infinite ambition of the billion-dollar hippie, the late Steve Jobs.
Hands down one of the best Christmas idents ever. There's just so much going on here and so much detail to take with every second as we descend down this too, occupied by buildings, townspeople, and a beautiful final image. Seriously, that should be some sort of Christmas display or decoration itself, never mind just for the telly. Why this works so well, I think, is the sheer amount of detail that was placed into making it. It didn't have to be this in-depth, it didn't have to be this expansive, but the minds at BBC Two clearly cared about making an ident at Christmas that would last, stand out amongst what had come before and what was to come after. Truly one of their greatest efforts. And overall with Windows on the world, what's my closing thoughts? Well, as I've said multiple times, why I think they work and why I think people are fond of them and will go on to remember them for years is their sheer simplicity in concept, but beauty in terms of their design and in their execution when played out. They're probably some of the most visually appealing idents we have had across any TV channel in recent memory, and if they are remembered for their simplicity and beauty as time moves on, well, I can't see a problem with that whatsoever. And so we've come to the end, but before we go, the final words from our broadcaster. That was all this week for this instalment of the Ident Review. I hope you all enjoyed watching it, and we hope that you tune in next week. You can tune in to all the regular programmes which will be available to you to view at their usual days and times. The Now Review on Tuesday, the Sunday Catch-Up on Sunday, and the new show looking at children's classic Through the Dragon's Eye on Wednesdays. But until the next time, have a good week, and we hope that you join us again soon. Good night.